I want to move on for a second. Apparently, the vice president is either on her way or landed in England. There's this big AI summit, and President Biden has now tapped the vice president with another task, which is to lead the U.S. government's response to AI. Now, I tweeted this out earlier. If you are one of these people that doesn't want government involved in regulating AI, well, don't worry, because Kamala Harris is now involved, so nothing will get done. But I am concerned about these two folks in particular jumping in the middle of a subject that I'm not really convinced either one of them has a sense of what to do or how to do it. I am concerned about AI. I'm more particularly concerned as a conservative, as I've always said, garbage in, garbage out. If a bunch of liberals are programming these computers about what's right, what's wrong, what sources to use, they're going to program all of the left-wing kind of inputs. They're not going to use the Blaze, the Spectator, the First, Daily Caller. They're going to say, okay, that's hate speech. I am concerned that Kamala Harris is leading this. Amber, as she goes forward, in all seriousness, I mean, is this something that we should worry about in terms of how the U.S. government tries to regulate the future of AI?
I'm extremely concerned about it. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that a judge ruled that the Biden administration had violated the First Amendment by its involvement in trying to crack down on so-called misinformation in big tech. And one of the fundamental problems with big tech's censorship of conservatives was not just the human element, but the algorithms that were coded by humans that then would censor conservatives without any involvement from people who were hired to actually do content moderation. We could see the same problem happening with AI. And then in addition to the speech element of it, there's also the problem that we've been seeing with strikes around the country. I know we don't have much sympathy for Hollywood types, but there's a possibility that AI could take jobs from truck drivers or individuals who are working class. And so there has to be a discussion, too, about how this affects labor. And no, I don't trust Kamala to deal with anything, let alone one of the biggest technological advances in human history in the past 10, 20 years. It's been growing rapidly, and we don't seem to have an answer for it. We don't seem to have an idea of how it should be integrated into society. I mean, if the closest thing that Kamala has to dealing with AI in terms of a knowledge set is that she kind of speaks like AI when she talks about yellow school buses and time and other material concepts. But that's about as far as I would give her my trust.
Chad, where do you come down on this?
It's hard to top that one, Amber. You're
Thank
so
you.
right. You know, Kamala and Joe Biden's foreign policy is don't. I mean, that's very prolific, right? So profound. So I don't put a lot of stock in her ability to be a czar of anything. She's proven that with the border and everything else that she's been in charge with. You know, the other day she gave a speech where she talked about the racial equity of AI, because, I mean, that's everybody's concern. I mean, come on. Yeah. James Cameron made a whole series of movies called the Terminator series that told us what was going to happen when this thing had become self-aware, right? These things, you know, this AI, it can be taught, it can be programmed. And to your point, Sean, what's happening is not good. It's just a matter of time before this whole thing turns inward on us and destroys all of us. And I don't mean in a Terminator fashion. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's not coming in robot form.
What?
But destroy. I mean, I know one can hope, but time travel hasn't been invented yet. Maybe they put Kamala Harris in charge of that. We'll get somewhere. But at this stage in the game, we're talking about destroying lives, destroying reputations, destroying careers over fake information, false information, video, voice imitation. And it's amazing to me that we as human beings throughout, you know, the millennia of our existence have this weird propensity towards destroying ourselves. And I see this as a big, massive weapon that eventually is going to turn itself against all of us, and we're not going to be there to stop it. You know, at what point in time is the headline going to say Sean Spicer is accused of this? We've got video of him doing
already
these
does.
things.
It already does.
You know, I mean, and then because again, you're going to trust what your eyes see, right? And they know that from the deep fakes to the AI video to the voice duplication, all of these things. We're in serious trouble, and especially, I don't know, at this stage, I think maybe they're just looking for things for Kamala to do, or at least say she's doing, just to get her out of their hair. I don't know.
Well, they figured this was one, this, you know, all these other ones kept around the White House. This one, there's a conference in England. So they were like, okay, if you lead this, you actually have to leave the country. Maybe that was it. Staying with Biden and Harris, though, Dean Phillips, this congressman from Minnesota, who's made a ton of money with ice cream, is challenging Joe Biden. And the thing that I think is so interesting about this is, by all accounts, the guy's a smart guy, smart businessman. And he's gone all in New Hampshire. Now, just to set the stage for everyone to understand this, New Hampshire is the DNC changed the calendar so South Carolina would go first because that's where Biden is going to do better. They didn't want to embarrass him in Iowa and New Hampshire, so they moved those out of first and second position. Okay, they're letting South Carolina go first because they say it's more representative. It's got more of a black voting population, which is good for Democrats. Okay, that being said, so everyone understands this, New Hampshire has a state law that says we don't really care. We're going first. Well, if you violate either party's rules, each of them have their own rules, but in the DNC, they strip you of your delegates. So there'll still be a primary in New Hampshire. They still will be in January. They'll go after Iowa. There will be a race. But if you win New Hampshire, you don't get any delegates. Dean Phillips is going all in New Hampshire because he wants a moral victory. Joe Biden apparently isn't even going to appear on the ballot on this. Amber, I mean, I feel like I get it. But if you're serious about challenging him, you're a congressman from Minnesota. He's got some personal wealth, but not real money in terms of what it would take to beat this guy. And he's going and kicking off his campaign in New Hampshire, where even if he wins, which he probably will because Biden's not on the ballot, he doesn't actually get any delegates. Then you're going to head to South Carolina, where you're going to get blown out because Biden has rigged the system.
Yeah, I think this is sort of a vanity project and a way to make a ton of money off of unassuming donors, because I could see maybe the argument for, well, if I win in New Hampshire, maybe that will give me some momentum. But at that point, you're immediately followed by South Carolina, right, where all of that momentum is immediately going to be killed. So I don't understand the point of this. But I think we could see how unserious this challenge was just by the announcement, because the first thing that Dean Phillips said was that he thought that the Biden administration had been doing a good job. But the problem was not with their policies. It was with the fact that they basically have a low approval rating and Democratic voters say that they want somebody else to win the primary. Right. So if you're going to lead with the fact that you support Joe Biden as you're running against him, and then go on a cable news interview, by the way, and say to Kristen Welker that you're not actually running against Joe Biden, and then get fact checked in real time, because that is quite literally what you are doing. You just can't take this guy seriously.
Chad, I mean, that's the thing, is that as much as I was excited that Kennedy was challenging him because he had a name, he was getting 14, 15%. I think he would have embarrassed him. This is not, to me, to Amber's point, his thing is, hey, I love everything Biden's doing. He's just 80.
Yeah. Well, I think the New Hampshire thing is going to wind up being a nothing burger. I agree with both of your assessments on that you're going to go to South Carolina, you're going to get routed. I think what we may see with the New Hampshire primary, and I hope we'll see if the media is truly turning on Joe Biden, as somewhat of the trend has shown us to be in the last 2 months. If they choose to make a story out of this, it'll be interesting to me to see if they are showing any form of weakness on the Biden campaign. So let's see what happens here. But I agree with you, Amber. I don't think this guy's serious. I don't think anything that he's saying is really holding any water in regards to this. But wouldn't it be something if staying off the ballot in New Hampshire actually backfired? Because let's face it, this was a political ploy on the part of the Biden administration to do this. Right. And, he's pandering, quite honestly. So we'll see what happens.